I've watched a lot of NASCAR over the last few years. It is by far one of the funnest stock car races I have ever watched. And it was like a movie watching you work your way up there. And then I look up and our boy is leading at Talladega.
Nope. I'm just gonna put my foot on the floor and I'm not lifting till I see God or a checkered flag.
All right, Racing with KLAS. This is our Talladega recap. Listen, if I couldn't tell you, I was in my car. This is how crazy. I was on my way back from Houston with my phone. Wife is driving, and we are both screaming at the top of our lungs because I I felt like I was in a Twilight Zone. I was like, we literally talked about a week ago that he was feeling good. They thought they had the right car, and I am yelling at the top of my lungs, oh my gosh, babe, Andy is leading at Talladega. So I can only imagine what's going through your head. If you're tuned in and you didn't see the race, it is, I've watched a lot of NASCAR over the last few years. It is by far one of the funnest stock car races I have ever watched. And it was like a movie watching you work your way up there. And then I look up and our boy is leading at Talladega. So that's how I felt. But let's go back. How did you feel going into the weekend? Did you have a feeling? Did the stars align? Did you show up to the track and did you have a Baker Mayfield I'm feeling dangerous type of feeling?
Yeah, I think all weekend we kinda had the vibes that, I certainly did. I kinda thought it was the weekend. I had a feeling. A couple of my crew guys, I remember Ricky Hocker pulled me aside. He told me he had a feeling, and, I was driving to the track and seeing 73s everywhere, and it just, I don't know. I don't know how the universe works and how fate works and all that, but, I felt this way going into Daytona a couple years ago, and, that was, the God or the Checker Flag one, 'cause that's, actually, when I came up with that quote, on the fly there, my only thought was, "Damn it, that's gonna sound cool," and, in victory lane when they look back on this, because I was positive we were gonna win, so, um, call it another one where, if that caution woulda come out a couple seconds sooner or not at all, um, we had the lead 5 seconds before that caution, and, I think if the caution didn't come out, I think that our line in the middle was gonna move back up. I don't think that, when Thad and LeVar jumped to the outside there that was gonna hold, but, um, it's just one of them deals. We're playing with a lot of teammates up there, and as much as we run ARCA, we're kind of the odd man out on some of the stuff. I'm sure, those larger teams are communicating a lot. Nitro and Venturini are kind of the same deal, and then, you get into the Rev Racing cars and all that. I'm sure all those guys are, you know, there's only really, you know, 10, heavily funded ARCA teams probably out there. So I'm sure they're probably communicating with each other more than we're communicating with them. So, um, probably kind of the odd man out there, probably being Kitzmiller, but me and Kitzmiller were working together there. I was proud of him. The leaders, we were on the bottom lane and the leaders were running off the yellow paint, and that's where Kitzmiller was running. And I wasn't getting off the yellow paint because I wasn't going to get dive bombed. So I stuck my nose underneath Kitzmiller in the 97 a couple times, and he went to block it. The one time I almost spun him, and I think he got the message like, do it or I'm going to do it. And he started plowing his way through. That's how we passed the 15 and the 18. Um, Probably one time we were probably under the yellow line, but whatever. You let off there, something worse is going to happen. So, um, they weren't running the yellow line and we made them pay. That's how we got up into the top 5 there. And then, um, we just had, the car was that fast, and we made a couple good decisions in traffic with the help of my spotter, TJ Majors, just putting me in the right spots. And, we had that early race spin and we had some damage, and then I jumped the restart. I always forget how far down that start finish line is, and I jumped out before the line, so we had a pass through penalty, which we're kind of in the bad. It was after the crash, and we didn't lose a lap, so it didn't really hurt us too bad. But um, just got the brakes we needed to get back up there, and had the car to do it, and we're prevailing on the outside line. But I knew I knew behind me that Moffat was gonna he was trying to get rid of me. He was, so I was doing my best to block it best I could, and while also concentrating on side drafting and pulling back the inside line when we were up on the outside there. So kind of doing two things at once. And he ran up on my tail, and I didn't expect him to make a move in the corners, and he made a late move in the corners, and I don't think I could have blocked it. I didn't see it in time anyway, but even if I did see it, I don't know that I could have done much about it without causing a wreck. But you know, just just that close. So hopefully the Class Motorsports 73 gets to win one of these things here soon, so I don't have to, be haunted by these almost wins my whole life. But I've been through this in racing so many times, street stocks and modifieds and everything, and you always have those close calls and those almost, and oh my god, wins before you get that first win in every division that I've raced with, and every step along the way, you're always wondering if that was your last shot, or if you're going to get another shot, or if you're going to be that close again. Now I'm at this point now as a driver in Class Motorsports, at this point with a team where, you know, a win like that would be just life changing for me. It would completely change the trajectory and the story of Class Motorsports and the team. So there's a lot riding on it. And, I want to get the job done, and the team wants to put the car underneath me to get the job done. And, not a lot of people get to this level, and I'm here, not just as a driver, I'm here as part of this team. So it's me and them, and we're all in the same boat together. But a lot of people don't ever get to this level, and a lot of people, get to this level and aren't successful. And, to get that close and see it slip away there again is it's a little tough. But I think that's just the competitor in me. I don't think we did anything wrong. I think it's probably just I compared it after to, knocking over 99 dominoes, and the last one didn't fall for some reason. So, one of these days, it's just gonna, if we keep putting ourselves in these positions, I think one of these days we're when the music stops, we're gonna be in the right position finally. So, we'll see.
Let's go back to the restart, because I was I I think I knew what you were trying to do. I think you were being an older savvy racer, but for people that don't really understand, what were you trying to do at the restart, and compared to what they ended up penalizing you for?
So the 73 car, the 37-year-old from Buffalo, New York, Andy Jankowiak, will have to come down pit road again. You see on the bottom right, he jumped it.
Phil, that was impressive. You saw that right off the bat.
I was in the back at that point, so I laid way back and just got a big run and start at it, and I just timed it a little bit wrong, and you get it sounds simple, I guess, and maybe it should be, and it's obviously it was a mental error on my part, but you have to stay in line with the guy until you get to the start finish line, and I pulled out a little bit too soon. And you get in the car, and you trying to make things happen, and sometimes you try a little bit too hard, and we just cut that one a little bit too close. So yeah, it's weird, like when you're, the rules of ARCA are a little bit different than the rules of like a short track deal. Like on a short track deal, you're allowed to pass on the outside, but you're not allowed to pass on the inside. So every deal has a different rule. And, sometimes in those moments when you're making those split second decisions, you know, something I just probably got to study a little bit and just make sure I'm a little bit more careful on in the future. I did that once at Phoenix, pulled out a little bit too soon before the start finish line, but, fortunately, both times I've done it, neither one of them have really affected what was going on. In Phoenix, that was the one where we had the flat tire and we were a couple laps down, so it didn't really change much for us. And at Talladega, I'll say I'm proud of myself a little bit because I got on pit road hot, like hard brakes all the way to the line, and I nailed it. Like I was 3,000 RPM at the line. So, watching how tough that is for the cup drivers even to do that sometimes is, and we don't, with the ARCA cars, we don't plan on green flag pit stops. So, especially with the super speedway stuff, the brake pads in that car, they're a couple years older. It's kind of stuff actually like older brake pads are going to drag a little bit less. So it's not something we spend a lot of time thinking about. We don't, I've never really turned the brake bias. It's, you always do some hot pits here and there, but that was the first one where, I really had to hustle it to make sure we stayed on the lead lap. So it was, I was proud of myself at least for that. I was able to get on and off pit road. Did not lose a lap, and we were able to make it to the halfway break there and kind of reset and regroup. And at the end of the day, by the end of the race, we did have the lead inside the last 10 laps, and that's probably the best position you could put yourself in. So to overcome the crash, because there was damage, we got hit in the left rear, and even that crash when that happened, I kind of thought we were, when the crash started, I got hit and I could see a car coming at my left front, and I know he's gonna cream me, but we were both. It was that 23 car. I seen him, and I was spinning as fast as he was going, so we kind of kept going the same way. And I nosed the thing down to where I was below the apron, and I didn't feel crunch. So I'm like, okay, maybe we're all right. And I swung the thing straight, and there was smoke everywhere, and they're spinning in front of me. And first thing I was trying to feel is if my tires were up, and it felt like the tires were up, and just kind of steered my way out of it. So we made a couple pit stops for some left rear damage, which is normal for us. We don't seem to be able to escape a weekend without, clubbing something off the car. So, the team's getting pretty used to me coming into the pits, needing a little help. So, that wasn't anything we're not used to. So they made some quick repairs and, we overcame that too. And, to inside of a 76 lap race we started by points, so we didn't start the best. And, then we had the spin and we had the penalty and, working out there with no teammates to overcome all of that and be leading the race inside of whatever it was, probably down to 5 to go there. I think it says a lot about our team and our character, and I think we keep proving it. I think right now we're kind of demonstrating what we're capable of. We're trying to grow this team. We're trying to find new sponsors. We're trying to get to more races. And, I feel like we have this great group of guys working on these cars with Mike and Andy. And I feel like, the more I'm out there, the better I get, right? These NASCAR guys run 36 weeks a year and they, it's what they do every week. They're out there in the car 2-3 days a week and running Xfinity races and all that. With me coming in and doing it, 8-10 times a year, it is always, you always feel like you're playing catch up a little bit. Like when you take a month or two off and these guys are out running, even on the ARCA series, even running the short track races, just, it does feel like, you're playing catch up a little bit. And then even with the car and the team and, there's a routine to going to the racetrack every week that you go in and out of. Not that we don't make up for it and we don't do a good job, but I think, growing the team is kind of still our goal and getting to more of these races. And I think that's also going to lead to more success on the racetrack. Just, having this all become routine and being there every week, I think it would help a ton.
Yeah. I mean, it was, it seemed like, and big shout out to the broadcast booth. I mean, you were the featured driver for the Sioux Chief, like in-car cam.
Let's take a look at today's Sioux Chief fast track driver. It's Andy Jankowiak. And Andy J has had his ups and downs so far. Had to serve a penalty, Phil, but still was able to stay on the lead lap, being scored in 21st at the moment.
He's a full-time pizza delivery guy up in New York. And, we talk about short tracks and how big, massive this place is. We drove in the infield. Brett and I drove in the infield. So I can't even believe that there's a racetrack surrounding this whole thing. Well, he races indoor TQ midgets. So, I mean, what is it? What would that be? An eighth of a mile, probably indoor.
Yeah,
so
that'd be tight.
Yeah, and he wins a lot there. He won the championship in New Jersey this past winter. He's the biggest winner ever in that indoor midget class. But
I want to try his pizza.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the fact that, you know, once you got back in, I told my wife, I said, he's fast. And at what point when you got out there, did you realize like, hey, I have a top 5 car here? Like, was it first couple laps that you were just like, yeah, we got something here?
We knew it at the test with that car. You know, and I feel like that every time we go to a super speedway race. I think that this car, whatever we had going on, was probably a little bit better than the Ford was this year. I think before, you know, we made the race car explode at Daytona, going, you know, God or checkered flag. I think the Ford was this quick for sure. We lost a little bit of speed probably in the Ford when we put it back together. We're still searching a little bit for that, which is just normal stuff. You know, you spend years massaging a car and it gets a little bit better each time. So we've gone to the racetrack with fast cars. So this car seemed to be a lot faster on its own. The Ford might have actually even been better in a draft. Like the Ford would suck up really, really tight, but it was kind of stuck in a draft. And there's a couple times with this Chevy car where, you know, I'd be in a draft and I call it like a bubble. Like you would get to a certain point and it would just start pushing the guy in front of you, or pushing the guy in front of me more than it would let me catch him. But when I pulled out of traffic, I noticed it didn't drag as much. It didn't lose as much speed when I pulled out of the draft. So I think that's probably why coming back up through the field, leading the outside line, I think we were so strong there, you know, racing against Venturini cars. And, you know, so the car had some advantages, some disadvantages. And, you know, probably being able to pull out a line like that was really the advantage that the car had. And it just became about getting in the right position to try to, you know, be able to capitalize on that. And, you know, we got to the lead being behind 2 teammates on the start that wanted to line up. So once the outside car dropped in with the inside car, you know, we began leading the outside line. And, you know, we had their other teammate behind us, which is you know, good kid. I talk to him all the time. Thad Moffitt, Richard Petty's grandson. But, you know, he, you know, we're not part of that team, and we get that. So we were doing our best to keep him behind me, and he's doing his best to win the race. And, you know, at the end of the day, he had a chance to win the race. So you can't say he did the wrong thing by kicking me out there. But, you know, that's probably the little stuff we're going to have to think about, I guess, to get over that last little step, because that's the little stuff that we're missing at the end of these races is just, you know, we kind of end up being the odd man out. Kind of similar to Daytona, really. But Daytona, we were leading the outside line late in the race there. I think we got up to third and maybe second. I don't know. We were on the outside of Helio, but we never got to the leader. But at Daytona, we had more damage, and I think we were probably slowing our line down a little bit because of our damage. So I think that's why they kicked me out. Actually, that one was Kitzmiller in '97 behind me, which, you know, that's another guy probably in a similar situation to me without a lot of, you know, big factory, you know, support. And he's not really part of the, you know, the inner circle of the ARCA deal. So, not that guys are mean to me or anything. I'm not crying the blues over here or anything, but, you know, there's definitely a group of guys that are running all the races and half the East races. And then there's, you know, the teams that, you know, are running part-time that, you know, aren't there every week. And I think there's a familiarity that you probably, but yeah, I think Kitzmiller is similar to us because he runs a partial schedule and he comes with good equipment. So he's always one that I'm looking for. And that's how we got to the front at Talladega. So, would have liked to have someone like him behind me. I think, you know, I think with the right guy behind me, I think we could have prevailed on the outside line and certainly would have made it to that caution. And then it's a 50-50 and who's going to have the nose ahead when yellow comes out, when they all start crashing again. But I don't know, you know, it's like I say, we had 1,000 dominoes and we knocked over the first 999. We just got to figure out how to knock over that last one.
I when you got the lead, I remember thinking, and I don't know what was going through your head, but so you can tell me, but I thought, I bet if you'd have told 12-year-old Andy, hey, one day you're going to be leading at Talladega he would. I don't know if he would have. I don't know if he'd have believed it when you were leading. Was what was going through your head? Were you thinking, "Oh my gosh," or were you just thinking, "Hold on, man, hold on"?
It's weird. I probably thought more about it after. I think in the moment, I was cognizant of the fact that, okay, I'm leading this race. I knew I beat him to the line a few times, and I knew we were fighting for the lead, and I knew this had to be pretty exciting. Like you know that stuff, but um, probably more thinking about it after. I probably would like to actually go back and enjoy the broadcast a little bit because that's probably the best way I can kind of go relive it. But um, probably more after, just taking it all in and being in awe of the place. But um, as much as I've done this stuff, and I am always in awe of these speedways that we go to in this platform that I get to race on. I always try to take a minute to take it all in. If you watch me during pre-race, usually I walk up the grass and I go just chill for a second and kind of check out where I am and take it all in. But once I'm racing, I'm just racing. I just want to win. It's a go-kart, it's Daytona. I just want to win so bad. And that's always my focus. And really when I was out there fighting for the lead, it was really more about just paying attention to where the 20 was. It was more about paying attention to where TJ was telling me to place the car to make sure I block the middle line, don't get shot to the middle. But what I was really focusing more on was working my side drafting because I was trying to figure out when to side draft the 20 and beat him to the line. So if we ended up being side by side to the end of the race, if you watch these guys when they come down for these races, they start side drafting and one guy gets here and he pulls ahead and then it's like this slingshot thing back and forth, right? So the way to win this race is study when do I go down and side draft him so that I'm ahead at the point of the line. So I was kind of studying each lap where to pull the 20 back based on where he was and trying to figure out, how do I beat him to the line if this comes down to the end of it. Um, I had plenty to think about. I've got the rest of my life to, think about how awesome all of this is. And, certainly I knew it'd be a lot more awesome if I won. So I was trying to make sure that happened and, came up a little short. We
Uh,
won.
on the broadcast, I know you haven't watched it, but they were talking about you had your hand out the window and they were kind of wondering if you were trying to kind of signal to the guy behind you, like, "Hey, are we going to work together?" Were you doing that, or were you just sticking your hand out the window to kind of like?
No, it's just hot. I ain't got no friends out there.
That's what I see.
I love it. I love it if I was there. Anyway, I don't know. They can't. Those, the days of Dale Earnhardt, going like this, they're over. I mean, these cars are so built up with all these braces and all these all this body stuff they got in the windows, and especially the ARCA cars. And I was kind of even telling TJ, looking out my mirror, it's so hard to look out the mirror and drive out of the mirror because the spoilers are so damn high in the back of the things. But no, I was just hot in the car. I was a little pissed because they gave us an onboard camera and we had the whole banana fiasco last year. So we're trying to think about how to touch up on this. And we came up with this idea to I put a picture on Facebook, like banana chips. So we went to Buc-ee's, we got banana chips, a little class sticker over the Bucky Beaver. And I thought this was going to be hysterical. I had them duct taped to the side of the seat and I'm all raced under caution. I'm, munching on my banana chips. So I was enjoying them anyway, but they never caught on to it. They're probably too busy with Cleetus McFarland and all that other stuff they had going on. But probably for the best, I like, the fun and the games and the gags. It's all good fun, but the goal is to go there and win. So, they missed my joke there a little bit, but I'd much prefer their talking about how we're battling for the win up there. So we'll work on getting TV time that way. That's still the goal, obviously.
I do have to last thing I do have to ask you about the Reese's move of the game is Cleetus McFarland avoiding a wreck. Of all the stuff that was happening at the front in the Reese's move of the game is Cleetus McFarland avoiding a wreck. Like, as a driver, do you kind of look at that and go, okay, I mean, I get what we're doing here, but
Yeah, I don't know. The days of you know, people watching because, Dale Earnhardt is the coolest, most badass race car driver in the history of the universe or seem to be behind us. So we live in a whole new world and you know, I play that game. I play the gimmicks a little bit. I feel like I put the helmet on, whatever anyone thinks about me. I go out and race. I'm there to race. So but I do play with the gimmicks a little bit and try to get a little bit of attention and try to get a little bit of sponsorship. Now, you had this exaggerated situation going on and um it's I don't know. It is what it is. It's bringing attention to the series. Maybe it's a good thing. There's it's hard to find sponsorship for these cars and we're trying so hard to kind of do it the right way with, good performance and being a good driver and having some fun with it too, obviously, but you know, also being very serious. So, um, some of the stuff I thought was a little cheesy, like, when he's steering through wrecks and he's cheering in the car. I thought that was I don't know. It's a little bit much. I mean, I don't know. It's still racing at a high level. You know what? He went out and he finished 10th, so you can't take any credit away from him. But um, there is some sort of there's something we're giving up with it in the world of being taken seriously. And um,
Yeah, it's
it's
Frankie Muniz moving from ARCA to truck without really showing he can drive an ARCA.
yeah. I with Frankie though, obviously uses his notoriety to you know, get sponsorship help, I'm sure. I'm sure he's a very recognizable person and that bodes well for, someone that wants to place a product sponsor on a car. But, I've listened to Frankie and I've talked to Frankie, I've listened to interviews and all that. And, maybe he's not Dale Earnhardt, but he takes it serious. Like he is trying to be good at his craft. And, with the Cleetus McFarland thing, it's fun, and I don't know that he's not taking it serious, but he doesn't always act that way, and I don't know. The fist bumping in the car thing, probably, yeah, that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, I guess. Just, I don't know. There's only so far you can go with it, but, whatever. This may be the pot calling the kettle black, so I'll just shut up before I get myself in trouble, but,
I
um
mean, somebody could say, I would not, but somebody could say,
I mean, I had a
and
banana in the car last year. I mean, what are you gonna do? But I was putzing around under caution, and I thought, whatever. I had a banana. Um, I don't know. There's I grew up in the '90s, and then we get nostalgic on this show all the time, but it's just a lot different than it used to be, and I feel like if I was a driver in that era with the Ricky Ruds and the Rusty Wallaces, I probably, if I didn't need, like, I'd always have fun. I'd always, crack a beer after the race and, take it all in and be appreciative. But, I don't, I think I think I'd adapt to that era probably better and I'd have a chance to be more successful maybe in that era. But, you gotta play the hand that you're dealt, right? And in the '60s and '70s, it was big burly men that could overcome the, fact that power steering, wasn't allowed in the race cars for some reason, even though it was, but they were too cool. And, then the Jeff Gordon era comes along and it's polished for sponsors and now we're existing in the social media age where, you have to figure out a couple extra ways to get some attention for your sponsors if you want to stay in the game. So um, I feel like I've done, with me and then obviously with our team, we've hit on a lot of good ways to gain traction and stay relevant in the sport and at the same time also, you know, using our time in the sport to bring well prepared race cars and try to go win races. So um, we'll see how it goes. But it's it's definitely a product of the age. I don't think you'd have a YouTube star in the car in the '80s, but I don't know. Dick Trickle was a 48-year-old Cup rookie. and he raced for 13 years. A lot of these guys that raced back then, the Cale Yarboroughs and the Harry Gants, they raced close to into their 50s into almost 60, and you don't see that anymore either. So things change, and times change, and people change, and everything evolves, and we might not always like it, but this is the world we live in. And at the end of the day, you know I think everybody, myself included, and KLAS Motorsports, we feel very fortunate to be able to do what we're doing, and we do it our own way, and we have some fun with it. And we figured out a way to exist in this strange racing era that we live in, with the Cleetus McFarlands and the strange things going on around us. But we're here and we're having fun, and we'll see how it goes.
But yeah, I mean, it was an unbelievable race. Either way, it was really just a good race overall. A lot of fun. The broadcast, it was a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, the team did unbelievable. I could not have been more proud of you guys. Again,
Thank
I'm
you.
glad no one other than my wife was in the car, because they would have thought I had absolutely lost my mind. May have dropped a few expletives that my mother would not have been proud of at the time. That's I turned the race off. I just kept going. So close. He was so close. So
I know it.
but hey, listen, it was either way, the team, you had the struggles, you waded through it. It was unbelievable. And I think I mean, I keep saying it, like, and it's not even the same car from the last race. Is the fact that you guys have just hit a really good stride. So shout out to the team and everybody. And where are we at next? Kansas.
2 weeks, so we're every other week here for a little bit. As you can see, I am shanghaied here in North Carolina, getting the cars ready with the boys. Haven't seen my bed in a while. No danger of going back to Buffalo anytime soon, they tell me. So, but happy to be down here, doing my part and getting busy in the shop. So, I'm like, my one job on this team, I tell everybody, is I am the driver, and I don't have any other jobs, but I'm involved in every single one of the jobs one way or another. So, do a little bit of social media and a little bit of sponsor chasing, and a little bit of this. And right now we're busy getting race cars ready. So this is where I'm needed. This is where I'm at. And this is what chasing the dream looks like. So we're here. I'm here all the way through Kansas. Gonna go home for a few days. I think I'm actually gonna race my modified once.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, on May 10th. Actually, I'll probably run my Sportsman mod. There's an option. I got to figure out what it's gonna look like, but I'm landing pretty late, so I don't know if the modified race is 3 hours away, and the Sportsman race is 10 minutes away. So we'll see what options we have, and what the guys can get ready back home. But yeah, definitely a busy stretch of races here. As I promised at the start of this, we're going 5 races and span of, like, I think 6 or 7 weeks. So
Yeah.
little bit of chaos, but we got, what do we got? We got 4 cars behind me. The second one in is Dennis. That's our super speedway car. He's going into storage. But these other 3 here, this is right behind me is Charlotte Jane, and then we have Jaws way back there, and then we have Debbie next to Jaws, the third one in. So those 3 cars are going to be our bread and butter here for the stretch of intermediate races. The plan is actually to run the one way back there that looks like it's the least complete. That's Jaws. That's the one we're working on. That's the one that's going to be the primary for Kansas. The one right next to me here is going as the backup, Charlotte Jane. And hopefully everything comes back in one piece. We don't get into needing Debbie as a backup, but we'll do our best.
All right. Well, next week we'll get ready for Kansas and kind of talk, what that's going to look like and everything. So make sure that you tune in for that. And if you haven't yet, for whatever reason, subscribe to the podcast. We get more people that view the episodes than subscribe to the channel. So do me a favor, would you please subscribe to the channel, because it makes my job a little bit easier. But we have a lot of people that have been watching the content, so it's been fun. All right, brother. Great job, and we'll see you next week.
Be here.